Who said it was going to be a slow start to 2024? Traditionally, the first week of the year is quiet in the local news world as ministers, business leaders and reporters alike emerge from their Christmas food and New Year drinks-induced comas. But Deputy Tom Binet was determined to shake us all out of this annual stupor, leaving it only to January 2nd to resign as Infrastructure Minister and launch an explosive bid to oust Deputy Kristina Moore as Chief. Taking aim at what he described as woeful leadership and describing the past 18 months as depressing for everyone close to the heart of power, he said it was time for change and that the Chief Minister had fallen far short of her promise of a better way. It's no secret that the pair have been butting heads for the past year over matters as varied as the handling of CEO Suzanne Wiley's resignation, an apparently toxic culture in Broad Street, and the direction of health. So, why pull the trigger now? Does he think he has enough votes to succeed and ultimately become Chief Minister himself? And is he up for doing a deal with Reform Jersey, given their significant 10-member sway in the State's Assembly? For Bailiwick Express's first Politics Disassembled podcast of the year, reporter Rod McLaughlin put those questions to him directly.
In your report, you acknowledge that the decision to bring a no-confidence vote is something which comes after months of thought and discussions. Why are you bringing it now?
That's basically because, well, is there ever a good time? I've done 18 months. I'd hoped that things would improve. Perhaps in certain respects, one or two things have, but a number of things haven't. And it's been a succession of things that you get to the point where you mentioned earlier the term, the last straw that breaks the camel's back. And I think the one that did that for me was the resignation of Constable Andy Jail. I mean,
you give a number of examples of aspects of the Chief Minister's handling of her responsibilities which you believe are unsatisfactory. Is this ultimately a matter of clashing personalities, or is it something more than that?
You can describe things in all sorts of different ways. For me, I can only stand around and watch things that I don't consider to be appropriate for so long. And as I say, for me, I've reached a break point, I'm afraid.
How much support do you believe you have among States members generally?
Very difficult to tell. I think there are some dyed-in-the-wool decisions with people who've made up their mind before the issue comes to the fore, and I think there's probably only a relatively small number of floating votes to be had, to be honest with you. So you only really tell where you are when people come to press their buttons. But yeah, you can work things out, and you sort of build up a picture from there.
I think the Reform Party has said that it's going to talk to the Chief Minister about the situation. Have you had any discussions with Reform, who after all have a significant vote within the Assembly?
Reform have a very significant vote within the Assembly, and I think in this instance there, what they decide to do is probably going to be extremely influential. I meet with Reform reasonably regularly, and like I talk to a lot of different States members. I meet them informally, some of them, and occasionally formally as a group. And of course, it's completely down to them as to where they want to put their vote.
Would you work with them?
I take the view that if in the event that this was to succeed, I would want to work as closely as I could with everybody. So the answer to that is yes.
Now, the Chief Minister has suggested that you're somebody who's not prepared to compromise, and there have been accusations that you might be a difficult person to work with. How do you respond to those?
I respond by saying that they're cheap accusations to make. I've been around for a while over here. I've spent my whole life here. I'd point to my track record and ask for the evidence for this. The Chief Minister, if she'd taken the time to go and check on the people that I've worked with, both in infrastructure and with the hospital group, and ask them how they feel. Ask them if they feel I'm difficult to work with.
Another analysis of the situation might be to contrast the public sector and the private sector, and you're obviously somebody who's been very successful in the private sector. Is this about a clash of values between public and private sector, do you think?
No, I think values are values, are they not? If you've got reasonable values, they apply across the piece. And I don't think it's safe to assume that the calibre of people that work in the state sector is any better or any worse than work in the private sector. I think the key element is leadership.
And you've made it clear, haven't you, that in the event that you were successful with your vote of no confidence proposition, you would be prepared to offer yourself as the next Chief Minister.
Yep.
In the event that you were successful also in that respect, what would be different about an administration that you were fronting up?
I think I'd like to create hopefully a slightly happier and more relaxed culture, and basically seek to take an approach where everybody coming into work was clear about what they were looking to do and felt comfortable in doing so. So the main thing is a culture change.
And why do you think the culture isn't like that at the moment?
That's not a question for me.
Who is it a question for?
For the people or persons that are responsible for setting the culture of the moment. Sorry if that doesn't answer your question adequately, but I think it's correct.
If you were not successful, if you were successful in your vote of no confidence proposition, but you weren't chosen as the next Chief Minister, would you be prepared to work under a different Chief Minister?
Would depend entirely on who that was, what their ideas were, and who else they'd be wanting around the table with them.
Thanks for listening to this week's Politics Disassembled podcast. For all the latest news and political drama in Jersey and Guernsey, keep up to date with bailiwickexpress.com and our free daily news email. And don't miss the Saturday edition of our sister publication, the Jersey Evening Post, for a fuller interview with Deputy Binet. More next week.